Recently, Los Angeles Clippers owner Donald Sterling was caught on audio expressing objectionable views towards his players. While arguing with his girlfriend, Sterling proclaimed, "I support them and give them food and clothes and cars and houses. But do I make the games or do they make the games?" The 30 owners created this league. In other words, Sterling believes that the owners are the ones who created the games, not the players. While many people realize that Sterling's self-appointed ownership of the league is completely tyrannical, under the roots of this intolerable belief lie the appalling conditions faced by many college athletes. And that's where it stands today. Much like plantation owners, owners of collegiate football or basketball teams make money off the labor of their slaves in various forms, while prohibiting the slaves from earning any money. Just like the NBA and the NFL, the cesspool of corruption lies beyond the games we see on TV. Ever since its inception in 1906, the NCAA has been culpable for the corruption that has plagued college sports. NCAA athletes do not earn income, but they do the same amount of work as professional athletes. So, in order to further address this issue at hand, we will first take a time out and reflect on the problems faced by many of these athletes. Second, we'll huddle up together and examine some of the causes, before finally drawing up some of my plays with a two-step legislative plan. It is incumbent on the NCAA committees to have a more peripheral perspective and acknowledge the fact that many of these athletes grew up in an impoverished environment. Last year, the NCAA released a report called "The Price of Poverty in Big-Time College Sports," which extrapolated that 86% of these athletes grew up and came from underprivileged families. According to Miami News Times, roughly 96% of these athletes are African Americans who play basketball or football. These families and students are the sole hope of helping their families escape from their financial and social predicaments. However, universities do render scholarships to other students and provide them with a stipend. On the other hand, athletes are deprived of their right for their meritorious efforts other than the experience of playing for their schools. University of Connecticut's Shabazz Napier recently told reporters that he sometimes goes to bed starving because he can't afford food. Napier is going hungry at a time when millions of dollars are being made off of him. Asked when he felt like an employee, the Huskies point guard responded, "I just feel like a student athlete, and sometimes there's nights when I'm not able to eat, but I still got to play up to my capabilities." When you see your jersey getting sold and things like that, it may not have your last name on it. But when you see your jersey getting sold and things happening, you feel like you want something in return. You see, that's what today's amateurism in college sports really is: unpaid labor. This commitment to amateurism is supposed to ensure that athletes compete exclusively for the love of the game instead of profit. However, coaches, athletic directors, and conference presidents all take advantage of the teenagers who are making them rich, knowing that they have no recourse. John Calipari, the head basketball coach of the University of Kentucky, makes $5.5 million a season. That's almost 14 times the amount that President Obama makes. Yet, Calipari is not alone. 17 college football coaches and 7 basketball coaches each make more than $3.3 million a year. The coaches, it seems, want to be paid. By contrast, the athletes they coach, whose gift for talent form the foundation of their fortunes, are obliged to sign away the right to earn an income. One of the primary issues of the NCAA rules is that players cannot be paid a stipend, are forbidden to make money off their autographs or appearances, and cannot profit from their own likeness or abilities. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the quintessence of modern day slavery. The athletes risk their lives and health for their sport, but cannot even provide themselves with a hamburger or even purchase a pair of shoes. In addition, due to their arduous training schedules, these athletes do not even have the time or opportunity to procure a job. Author Taylor Branch writes in his Atlantic piece, The Shame of College Sports, to survey the corporations and universities enriching themselves on the backs of uncompensated young men, whose status as student athlete deprives them of the right to due process guaranteed by the Constitution, is to catch an unmistakable whiff of the plantation. Branch argues that without pay or voice, athletes are treated as modern day slaves. A substantial change in this new era now consists of whites, blacks, Hispanics, and other races included. African Americans accounted for the 51.6%, whites 43.3%, Latinos 2.1%, Asians 1.8%, and Native Americans 0.1%. Those describing themselves as two or more or other were the 0.1%. Nevertheless, these athletes are all subjected to similar treatment with no payment for their services. Not only are they cheated because of the amount of money they make for the NCAA, but they are also subjected to the possibility of the numerous injuries they can possibly sustain while playing for their sports, with no funds set aside for them. Through 2004, the National Trainers Association has filed over 2,500 injury reports, which equates to about 12,500 injuries per year. You see, universities are not required to render health care when these athletes get hurt, and this fact has proved detrimental to these athletes and their families. Former University of South Carolina defensive lineman Stanley Doughty was recently diagnosed with a fatal spine injury that ultimately ended his NFL career after getting his first physical. In order to limit his symptoms, he needed limited use of his right arm, and he had to keep a burning sensation from exacerbating. Doughty then became blindsided. The question is whether had the doctors really misled him, or even ignored about his injuries. Nonetheless, Doughty had absolutely no insurance to cover up for his funds. I was young, he said. I thought they knew what was good for me. I just listened to them, and I trusted them. Fortunately, there are solutions amenable to solve this reprehensible issue, and the solutions are two-pronged. I hereby advocate to the Justice Department and Congress my two-step legislative plan. First, Congress should pass a rigid law that would place limitations on the amount of money a team can spend on an athlete's salary. A minimum annual salary cap for every scholarship athlete would mitigate their hardships and what they have to go through every single day. Second, every scholarship athlete will be guaranteed a full lifetime health insurance plan, and an organization will be created to represent these players. This organization will also have the ability to administer the health insurance plan, negotiate with the NCAA to implement the salary caps, distribute the money, and serve as a versatile counterbalance to the NCAA. This organization would also direct licensing deals on behalf of players whose jerseys are being sold and collect fees whenever the NCAA tries to exploit the images of its players. When my advocacy is passed, college sports will be regarded with more approbation and appreciation once these players are paid. Not only this, but college sports and fans all around the world will be able to enjoy watching the games without having to express any concerns for these athletes. So today, we have discussed the problems faced by many of these athletes, dived into its implications, before finally setting equitable goals for these disconcerted athletes. You see, paying them will indeed alter college sports forever. Now, we may not and possibly cannot rid the world of people like Donald Sterling. Certain beliefs and behaviors are unmendable. However, if we change the way how the NCAA's abominable system is run, we can resolutely prevent people like Donald Sterling from becoming an authoritarian plantation owner.